You and Dr. Harris, you are recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you. I'd like to begin this testimony by thanking Chairman Paulson, Ranking Member Heinrich, and all members of the committee for inviting me to testify at this important hearing. It is truly an honor to receive this invitation. I'll start by noting that independent organizations have generally reached a consensus around the impact of the TCJA. A collection of independent entities have found that the initial boost provided by the bill will eventually wear off, slowing the growth rate in later years as rising interest rates due to growing deficits and the expiration of the tax cuts drag down the economy. Projections also find that the legislation drives up both public debt and borrowing from abroad, giving foreign investors a larger claim on domestic income, leaving income earned by Americans little changed. For example, CBO projects that the bill will grow real GNP by just 0.1% by 2028. These projections aside, I'd like to raise three main concerns with the legislation. My first concern is that the bill is poorly designed to spur new investment in a cost-effective way. One of the most significant shortcomings of the bill is the large windfall gain provided to investors. In this context, windfall gains refer to tax cuts awarded to individuals and businesses for something they have already done. The corporate tax cut and the deemed repatriation on foreign earnings are classic examples of windfall gains. Since a tax cut's impact on growth is largely determined by whether it raises investment or labor supply, windfall gains represent a wasted opportunity to boost the economy and are one of the primary reasons why so many project the act to have a tepid impact on long-run growth. A related concern with the bill is that it will actually reduce certain types of investment. According to CBO, the bill will lower combined investment in residential real estate and intellectual property by over $200 billion combined. My second concern is that the bill's steep increase in debt will hurt middle-class families. As members of this committee are well aware, our nation faces serious long-term fiscal challenges, with dire projections of a public debt explosion even before the bill became law. But the bill has greatly exacerbated concerns over soaring debt, raising deficits by roughly $2 trillion over the next decade. And these costs will rise substantially if the legislation is made permanent. There are plenty of concerns with exploding debt, but one particular worry is if policymakers respond by cutting major public programs such as Social Security and Medicare. Social Security is the bedrock of the U.S. retirement system, with roughly half of elderly households relying on its benefits for all or nearly all of their retirement income, while another quarter of elderly households depend on Social Security for a substantial portion. Cutting it would be a major blow to older Americans. Widespread cuts to Medicare and Medicaid would also be exceptionally harmful to American retirees, especially those with limited income or assets who cannot plausibly return to the labor market. An additional concern is the impact of higher interest rates on middle-class families. The higher debt levels in the bill will raise interest rates, making everything from home ownership to student loans to credit card payments more expensive for American households, even before they are asked to begin repaying the massive debt incurred under this tax law. My third concern is that the bill is poorly designed to benefit workers. In broad terms, there are two primary ways the tax cut can increase wages. One is by increasing worker productivity through higher business investment. Under this scenario, tax reform can eventually raise wages by first increasing the level of investment, which can then boost worker productivity, which can then, in theory, boost wages. There are plenty of caveats to this situation, but the key point is that without higher investment, there is no plausible argument for a tax cut raising wages. Legislation can also increase after-tax wages by directly cutting taxes on labor. This can effectively be done through a payroll tax cut, a refundable credit based on earnings, or an EITC expansion, but cuts in income tax rates are generally ineffective ways to boost middle-class wages because so many families pay little to no income taxes. Unfortunately, in my opinion, the bill receives poor marks on these various criteria. Future academic studies will shed light on the bill's investment impact, but initial evidence suggests that it has primarily boosted share repurchases rather than investment. Distributional analysis shows the tax cuts are of limited value to working families, and these families will begin paying more in 2026 with higher tax bills indefinitely thereafter. Lastly, the bill's relatively favorable treatment of businesses compared to workers may exacerbate the enduring fall of labor's share of national income, meaning an even smaller piece of the pie for workers across the country. In sum, the combination of limited new investment, substantially higher debt, and potential cuts to critical programs to offset that debt, and little positive impact on wages means that the bill is unlikely to achieve its purported economic effects. Thank you. I look forward to your questions.